Our next speaker, Jimena Andian, is the director, and I'm going to apologize in advance for my horrific Spanish pronunciation. Right, Instituto de Liderazgo. There you go, Simone de Beauvoir in Mexico. Jimena, do the OGP commitments really sufficiently lead to improved development indicators or impacts for women? What advice or guidance would you have for us?
No, thank you, and thanks for the invitation to participate in this panel. This is one of the only 2 panels in the whole summit that specifically addresses gender within the OGP. And since we have very little time, I just want to make 4 points. The first one is, who is OGP for? A well-known phrase says women hold half of the sky. However, we are often left out of formal and informal decision-making spaces, as well as accessing technology. And I think this room is very telling about that. I don't know if you have seen all the gentlemen in the pictures. They are all men. There is not a single woman there. And the entitlement to access information often rests with the middle and upper classes and predominantly with men. Transparency and accountability mechanisms are often unknown in marginalized communities. In this country, for example, indigenous women often cannot address these issues, cannot access information, firstly because they don't speak Spanish, and also because they are not part of these decision-making spaces. And the same happens with OGP. When we talk about civil society participation, how many of those organizations are led by women? How many national action plans are really incorporating gender equality objectives? How many women are speaking in this very summit? And I think you both, Laura and Samita, made a lot of points regarding this issue. And I think that if OGP really wants to be a joint platform with civil society, it really needs to make a conscious effort to include gender parity in its decision-making bodies, as well as to incorporate gender perspectives throughout its commitments and work. The second question is, what is OGP for? Is OGP solely a platform for open data and information, or does it really imply commitments to challenge the status quo and to promote social transformation? If it's the latter, it needs to generate the specific data that is properly disaggregated with gender differentials, that gives government the necessary evidence to formulate adequate public policies, and also that allows civil society to advocate for specific public policies and programs to really challenge power and gender inequality. How do we do this? Well, firstly, what doesn't get measured isn't value, and vice versa. The first thing that needs to happen is that data needs to be created, disaggregated, to reflect gender gaps in the economy, health, education, and other areas. A first step is undoubtedly to disaggregate this data by sex, but it's not enough. It's also about the kind of information that it's produced that matters. We need to ensure that health, economics, and other development research really takes into account women's needs and experiences. For instance, it needs to take into account for the work that women do in terms of care and domestic work. This is often not considered as real work and is not valued in economy, but it actually allows for the reproduction of life as well as for the country's economic development. In Mexico, a couple of years ago, we started measuring how much of the care work that women do counts in terms of the GDP, and it's very significant. Also, gender equality is not only about women, it's about how we transform the roles of men and women in society. How do we ensure equal participation of men and women in both the public and the private spheres? The Sustainable Development Goals on Gender Equality, Goal 5, and on building effective and accountable institutions, which is Goal 16, all have targets that can serve as starters for developing indicators and good quality data that will strengthen open government, public service, and citizen, including women's participation in the public life. So finally, what's the way forward in the context of OGP? If OGP wants to be a platform for the implementation of the SDGs, it needs to start counting women in, really in. The OGP can definitely contribute to the SDGs implementation. For that, gender differentials must be prioritized in data collection, disaggregation, and to inform policy. National action plans should include a gender perspective throughout, which means including women's experiences and needs, ensuring that actions do not reinforce gender stereotypes, among other things. Also, it means to include women's full participation in transparency and accountability mechanisms. I think that for this to be achieved, perhaps one proposal is for OGP to create a working group on gender,
that establishes a framework to ensure gender differentials are taken into account in national action plans. If we really want to create more just and democratic societies, we need to ensure gender equality is a priority throughout open government processes. Thank you.